Okay, so today we're talking about the lovely Schisandra. This is an herb in both Western and Eastern medicine, and it's also an adaptogenic herb. So I wanted to talk about it. I feel like adaptogens are very much out there in wellness culture and not really spoken about in any way other than, positively, and everyone can benefit from all of them. They're all amazing for every single person. And I don't necessarily agree with that. To qualify as an adaptogen, you do need to have a profile that is non-toxic. So technically, every adaptogen is safe to consume, especially over a long period of time. That's within the definition of it. That said, though, these are medicinal herbs and they do carry specific properties that I don't believe are necessarily helpful for every single person. So I wanted to talk about this one first. And I first made this a post, but then I was like, maybe I'll just talk about it because I personally hate reading. So for anyone else who also hates reading, you can just listen to this on your walk or car ride or whatever. So let's talk about Schisandra, or is it Schisandra? It's one of the two. I think it's Schisandra. And this can also be called, which is why I don't know the full correct pronunciation, because I would normally call it Wei Zi, and that's what it's called in traditional Chinese medicine, and that's how I learned it. And you can also find it under the name of Magnolia-vine fruit or five-flavor fruit. It is an immune amphoteric, meaning that it has a normalizing function on the immune system. So there are some adaptogens that are actually immunoregulatory or they're stimulating. And you can't just assume that all of them have this immune amphoteric function. So this is one of the adaptogens that has that, meaning if your immune system is overactive, it can bring it down to normal. And if it's underactive, it can bring it up to normal. So this is an amazing feature of it. So I wanted to talk about what it can be taken for in plain language. Sometimes I find that people talk about it in these really heady conversations, and I can't fully grasp what they're talking about. So, in just, plain English, normal language, what can this adaptogen be taken for? So we have fatigued eyes. This is especially true for probably everyone listening to this. I hope that as you're listening to this, you're able to kind of stretch your lens out and relax it a bit, because we stare at screens for too long and too many hours. So this can help with the eye. In Chinese medicine, the eyes are connected to the liver organ in TCM, and this herb directly works with that organ, the liver. So this makes sense to me. This can also be taken for stress-induced palpitations, insomnia, sweating, any sort of disturbing dreams that you may have that wake you up. It can also be taken for spontaneous sweating throughout the day or night sweating. So this is from a deficient state. So this is not sweating because you ran a lot or you are in a hot environment. This is sweating because your body is unable to hold in its qi or its fluid or its yin. You can think of this as someone who maybe you're cold, like your body feels cold, but you tend to sweat easily. And you might be like, well, why am I able to sweat so easily? and in situations where maybe it doesn't make sense that you're sweating, yet you feel so tired and cold and deficient. So that would be one instance. And then also, if you think about night sweating due to a deficient state, that would be someone with menopause. So they are, from a TCM perspective, they're yin deficient. And then from a biomedical perspective, they are hormonal deficient. So this night sweating is not coming from them actually being, overworked or hot per se, but it is coming from a state of imbalance and deficiency. So when I say due to a deficient state, it might be the easiest to think about someone who is currently in menopause. And then it can also be taken for just agitation, anger. If you have severe agitation, that's great. But if you even have just, the mild form of you're bothered all the time, this can be a great herb for calming that propensity toward anger down. I live in LA, so whenever I have to drive, I find that I'm automatically turned up to volume, 200. So this would be great for that. We talked about dreams, so any sort of scary dreams that disturb your sleep, and they don't necessarily have to be scary, but basically just vivid dreams that you find disturb your sleep and you're waking up tossing, turning, can't fall back to sleep because you're thinking about them, things like that. This herb and adaptogen can also be taken for sugar cravings, so it does have some sort of effect on blood sugar and glucose uptake, and glucose use actually. So this can be great if you are someone who craves sugar all the time. I would say that with all the stress that we're under, in general these days, but especially because of the current state of the world, the craving of sugar can be very much seen. So, yeah, this can help with that to curb those cravings. It can also help with chronic wheezing and chronic coughs. And I want this to be separate from a cough that's acute from some sort of illness or upper respiratory infection. The chronic cough is someone who has had this cough for a month or more, and it, for some reason, just will not go away. So if you've been sick and you still have the chronic cough after the sickness, then that's fine. You can take this for that. But if you have just received the cough and, other symptoms that we'll talk about, this might not be for you. But for chronic wheezing, so you can think of someone who has asthma, this would be a good thing to take. Also for general skin glowiness, tightness, brightness, hydration, this has a sour flavor among others. So it is going to, quote unquote, astringe and hold on to fluids and hydration. So this can be great for glowy skin, and you don't have to, put it on your skin. It's when taken internally. It also can be great for brain fog and poor memory. There are a lot of things out there talking about adaptogens for not only cognition, but also endurance in terms of sports and working out. So I wrote here increased endurance for your hikes or your workout or your walk or taking care of kids or whatever it is. It can give you an extra boost of energy, but it's not going to be like speed. It's not, like I said before, it has a normalizing effect. So you're not going to feel like a cocaine sort of boost, thank God. This is going to be more like if you're deficient and your body is unable to meet its endurance capacity, this can help you get there. So I try not to say it increases energy, because I think that scares people into thinking that you can't take it around bedtime, and it's going to keep them up at night, and that's not what it's doing. So you can think of it, if you are at an age where you should be able to hike, run, whatever it is, and you feel like you can't, then this will help get you there. Yeah. And also, if you're a person who is always sick, you're always making that excuse to go out with your friends. I mean, maybe you're lying, you just don't want to go out with them. I don't know. But if you do find that you are always catching colds or some sort of upper respiratory infection, then this can be great to add into your regimen every day. I also put here if you regularly indulge in alcohol. So I personally enjoy a martini or two, and that will probably be true for the foreseeable future. So this herb can help with keeping your liver happy and healthy. There are a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, there are some studies out there and more so traditional information on how this herb and adaptogen works with your liver to promote its healthy functioning. So this can be great for, I hate the word detox, but basically just keeping your liver in optimal health while you do things to your liver that are not optimal for your health, such as drinking alcohol. And then it also can be great for diarrhea, loose stools, if you feel like your digestion is quote unquote sluggish. I feel like digestion is the thing on Instagram, and I'm sure on TikTok, although I don't have one. And I know that a lot of people follow a ton of influencers trying to figure out why their digestion isn't good or why they feel bloated or whatever. And this herb can be good if you deal with loose stools from something like IBS, or if you just feel like you're unable to digest properly. That said, if you deal with constipation, this might not be for you, because like I said before, it is astringent, so it might hold on to any stool that you have if you feel like you run on the constipated side. So there are other herbs for that you can work with first, and then maybe take this later on for all the other benefits. But if you are constipated, I wouldn't look to this herb immediately first thing. And then I also saw that this adaptogen, I haven't learned about this specific use of it in my doctorate, but seasickness, some people have mentioned that it helps with that. I see that, I guess, because it is astringent, and that can, in my mind, have an effect on nausea and vomiting, a positive one. So yeah, seasickness, and that's kind of cool. If anyone tries it for that, please let me know. So now let's move on to when it should not be taken. And this is where I feel like most people they just skip over this. They don't talk about this part. And I think this is really important when you're looking to take an adaptogen. So if you are starting to feel sick, and this is what I was saying before, so by sick, I mean you have chills and fever. You can have one or the other or both together. You should not be taking this herb. You should wait until the chills, the fever, the runny nose, all of those symptoms have passed, and then you can take this herb. Like I said before, and I said like 5 times now, this herb is astringent. So from a TCM perspective, it can hold on to pathogens that are acute. So I'm not saying that this is going to hold on to, some other virus. Let's say you have Epstein-Barr. I'm not saying that this is going to hold on to that in your body. This is from a traditional perspective in terms of acute external or exterior syndromes. So to make it simple, taking this during an invasion of, let's say, a cold can have an effect on your body's ability to release that cold virus. So yeah, let's just keep it simple and say if you have chills or fever, don't take this. There, again, are other herbs or acupuncture for that. And then you can take this herb or resume taking it after those initial acute symptoms go away. You also do not want to take this if you have signs and symptoms of excess heat in the body. So if you are someone that has a red face, I always think of someone who, I think of an alcoholic older man. For some reason, that's just what comes to my mind. Whether or not that's correct or not, I don't know. But people that just have red face, red cheeks that almost look like they're about to burst. They look hot, they look inflamed. You can sometimes see veins that have popped on their skin. So when I'm saying red face, I don't mean someone who is just, pale and like myself and they get, red as they walk outside. I mean, someone who has a chronic red face, it is red all the time, no matter what, even if they're cold. Also, if you have weeping rashes, so if you have any sort of skin reaction, whether it's autoimmune or it's from an external source, and it is weeping with pus or even yellowish discharge, which I guess, pus, and it is super inflamed and red and hot, I would look to other things before I took this. There are some people who say that this is good for eczema, but I do think that you need to get rid of that weeping of the rash first before taking something like this. And then if you have something like a thick yellow tongue coating, that would also indicate excess heat. So you can just look at your tongue in the morning before you eat or drink anything or before you brush your teeth and see if that's you. Like I was talking about before, you also do not want to take this during early stages of coughs. So a cough from sickness or an illness, a virus, a bacteria. And then also early stages of rashes, like we just spoke about. You do not want to be taking this during the early stage of that rash. If you get rid of that excess dampness and heat, then yes, you can take this after, even if you have a rash, as long as it's not open. You do not want to take this if you're pregnant. This herb can cause uterine contractions. So this is the place where I really wish that more of this was talked about in the adaptogen story, because you should not be taking this if you're pregnant. So just forget about it until postpartum. Finally, there are some traditional sources and current sources that say this may cause mild heartburn. So I just like to be cautious with people who either have a stomach ulcer or who are prone to heartburn. There are traditional sources, though, that say this can have that normalizing effect on stomach pH. So the heartburn thing is tricky. I think it depends on the person. I think it's worth trying, even if you do have GERD or heartburn, and see if it has that normalizing effect for you. If it doesn't, then that's fine. There's a million other things you can do and take, but that's just something to keep in mind in case you do experience some of that heartburn. It is technically a normal part of this herb, although it does not affect everyone. So for the TCM, taste, temperature, and attributes, the temperature is warm. It is sour and sweet, but it is said to have all 5 flavors, which is where that first AKA name that I was talking about, 5 flavor fruit, comes from. So it is sour, sweet, acrid, bitter, and salty, but sour and sweet are the 2 main ones. So you can think of it as a tonic and also as an astringent herb. It enters the kidney, the heart, and the lung channel from TCM perspective. And actually, now that I look at that, it's kind of weird that it doesn't say liver, because it does have an effect on that. But from a TCM perspective, it is more focusing on that heart and then lung and kidney axis. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, actually. I didn't even notice that till now. If anyone has any insight into that, that would be interesting. But the dosage is anywhere from 1.5 to 3 grams for chronic coughs, and then 6 to 9 grams as a tonic. And all of this TCM, taste temperature information, is from the Materia Medica. I used the revised edition, and it's from Bensky. And just some tips also from Bensky. He thinks that good quality Schisandra, or Schisandra, I hope to God I'm saying that right, is large, oily, shiny, and it has a purple hue to it. And you do want to cook it lower than 60 degrees if you're going to be using this in a decoction. But I'll give you an easy way to use it in a second. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me just say that. So for cooking, you can either do this in a tincture form. So that's basically it's been extracted, the components have been extracted with alcohol. It's usually 100 proof alcohol, 100 proof vodka. So you can do that and let it sit for months, or you can do a decoction or a tea. I would recommend probably just doing a decoction or a tea. So a decoction, the difference between that and a tea is that you bring it to a boil and then you let it simmer for about 30 minutes. You can do even longer than that if you wanted to, like up to 40. So you can do any of those 2, and then you can also just take, I've heard 10 berries a day for 100 days. There's this thing out there about taking it for 100 days because it has an accumulatory effect. So it's not, one and done. It's best if you do this over a 3 to 4 month period to see and feel results. And it's not going to be something that is like shocking, because it is going to happen over time. So you're just going to notice more and more that these symptoms go away, or you start to feel more in balance, mostly because these symptoms are just slowly fading out and you almost forgot that you had them. So with any adaptogen, it's always good to just start out with, if you're not seeing an acupuncturist or an herbalist for it that does all that for you and takes the history and everything, if you're doing this yourself, then I would keep a journal of the symptoms that you're starting out with, what you're trying to get rid of, what the purpose of taking this herb is. Take it for every day for 3 to 4 months, and then calculate the results at the end and say, oh, okay, like I crossed off 6 of the 10 or whatever, and that's an easier way to tell if it's actually doing something for you. So yeah, you can try that. Just do the 10 little berries. They have dried ones that you can buy, and do it over 100 days. So yeah, I hope to do more of these in the future. I will probably do probably more on adaptogens. I just find them really interesting. And then hawthorn berry has been one that is just speaking to me. I'm seeing it a lot of places. It's just popping up for me. So it just feels aligned for some reason. So I think I'm going to do that one as well. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, please let me know. Let me know if you have any other herbs that you would like to hear about or any questions. And I'll see you next time.